The small town of Pinecrest wasn't used to much excitement. Nestled between rolling hills and thick forests, most days passed with the same peaceful rhythm. The town had one main street, a handful of family restaurants, and a community where most folks knew each other by name. Lisa Lawson had grown up in this quiet place, watching her father serve as sheriff for nearly 20 years. Now 26, with bright eyes that missed nothing and a stubborn streak that matched her dad's, Lisa worked as the crime reporter for the Pinecrest Herald. It wasn't exactly a high-pressure job in a town where the biggest news was usually about lost pets or minor traffic violations. But Lisa took her work seriously, maybe too seriously. "Someone needs to watch out for this town," she often told her friends over coffee at Marlene's diner. "Dad can't be everywhere." That Tuesday evening started like any other. Rain pattered against the windows of Lisa's small apartment above the bookstore. She'd just finished writing a piece about a series of mailbox thefts when she realized she was out of coffee for the morning. Grabbing her raincoat and keys, she headed out to the corner market. The parking lot of the Pinewood Inn, the only hotel in town, sat across from the market. Lisa wouldn't have paid it any attention if not for the sleek black car parked under the dim light. It stuck out in Pinecrest, where most people drove trucks or practical family cars. As she locked her own car, movement caught her eye. A man in an expensive-looking suit stood talking with Jimmy Parker, a local troublemaker who'd been arrested twice for selling drugs. Lisa froze, watching as the suited man handed something to Jimmy, who quickly pocketed it before walking away with a nervous glance around. "No way," Lisa whispered to herself, fumbling for her phone. She managed to snap a few blurry photos of the man getting into his car and a clearer shot of his license plate as he drove away. Her heart raced. This wasn't teens spray painting the water tower or someone speeding through town. This looked like a real drug deal right under everyone's noses, involving someone who clearly wasn't from Pinecrest. Lisa forgot all about her coffee. She drove straight to her father's house, the windshield wipers barely keeping up with the rain. Sheriff Robert Lawson was watching a baseball game when his daughter burst through the door, water dripping from her coat. "Dad, I saw something." "Something big," she said, pulling out her phone and showing him the photos. The sheriff squinted at the images. "That's Jimmy Parker, all right. Who's the other fella?" "I don't know, but he doesn't belong here. Expensive suit, fancy car with city plates." They exchanged something, and Jimmy looked nervous. Sheriff Lawson's face grew serious. He'd been trying to catch Jimmy doing something concrete for months. "Did you see what they exchanged?" "No," Lisa admitted. "But look at this plate number. Can you run it?" The sheriff hesitated. "Lisa, I can't just run plates because someone looks suspicious." "Dad, this is Jimmy Parker we're talking about. You know what he does. And who meets in a dark parking lot on a rainy night for anything good." After some arguing, the sheriff reluctantly agreed to check the plate number, not through official channels, but through his friend at the DMV. By morning, Lisa had a name connected to the car: Alexander Reed. A quick internet search didn't reveal much, only that he worked for the state government in some capacity. That made Lisa even more suspicious. A government worker meeting secretly with a known drug dealer. This smelled like corruption. What Lisa couldn't know, was that Alexander Reed was the state's top prosecutor. The meeting she'd witnessed wasn't a drug deal, but the careful handoff of evidence from an informant who had infiltrated a major trafficking ring. Jimmy Parker wasn't selling drugs that night. He was risking his life to help bring down the real dealers. But Lisa was already typing up her article for tomorrow's paper. Her headline would raise serious questions about the mysterious visitor to Pinecrest, and Sheriff Lawson, trusting his daughter's judgment and eyewitness account, was preparing to open an investigation. Neither of them realized they were about to accuse the wrong man. A powerful man who had spent his life fighting the very crimes they thought he was committing. The small town of Pinecrest wasn't used to much excitement. Nestled between rolling hills and thick forests, most days passed with the same peaceful rhythm. The town had one main street, a handful of family restaurants, and a community where most folks knew each other by name. Lisa Lawson had grown up in this quiet place, watching her father serve as sheriff for nearly 20 years. Now 26, with bright eyes that missed nothing and a stubborn streak that matched her dad's, Lisa worked as the crime reporter for the Pinecrest Herald. It wasn't exactly a high-pressure job in a town where the biggest news was usually about lost pets or minor traffic violations. But Lisa took her work seriously, maybe too seriously. Someone needs to watch out for this town, she often told her friends over coffee at Marlene's diner. Dad can't be everywhere. That Tuesday evening started like any other. Rain pattered against the windows of Lisa's small apartment above the bookstore. She'd just finished writing a piece about a series of mailbox thefts when she realized she was out of coffee for the morning. Grabbing her raincoat and keys, she headed out to the corner market. The parking lot of the Pinewood Inn, the only hotel in town, sat across from the market. Lisa wouldn't have paid it any attention if not for the sleek black car parked under the dim light. It stuck up in Pinecrest, where most people drove trucks or practical family cars. As she locked her own car, movement caught her eye. A man in an expensive-looking suit stood talking with Jimmy Parker, a local troublemaker who'd been arrested twice for selling drugs. Lisa froze, watching as the suited man handed something to Jimmy, who quickly pocketed it before walking away with a nervous glance around. "No way," Lisa whispered to herself, fumbling for her phone. She managed to snap a few blurry photos of the man getting into his car and a clearer shot of his license plate as he drove away. Her heart raced. This wasn't teens spray painting the water tower or someone speeding through town. This looked like a real drug deal, right under everyone's noses, involving someone who clearly wasn't from Pinecrest. Lisa forgot all about her coffee. She drove straight to her father's house, the windshield wipers barely keeping up with the rain. Sheriff Robert Lawson was watching a baseball game when his daughter burst through the door, water dripping from her coat. "Dad, I saw something." "Something big," she said, pulling out her phone and showing him the photos. The sheriff squinted at the images. "That's Jimmy Parker, all right. Who's the other fella?" "I don't know, but he doesn't belong here. Expensive suit, fancy car with city plates." They exchanged something, and Jimmy looked nervous. Sheriff Lawson's face grew serious. He'd been trying to catch Jimmy doing something concrete for months. "Did you see what they exchanged?" "No," Lisa admitted, "but look at this plate number. Can you run it?" The sheriff hesitated. "Lisa, I can't just run plates because someone looks suspicious." "Dad, this is Jimmy Parker we're talking about. You know what he does. And who meets in a dark parking lot on a rainy night for anything good." After some arguing, the sheriff reluctantly agreed to check the plate number, not through official channels, but through his friend at the DMV. By morning, Lisa had a name connected to the car: Alexander Reed. A quick internet search didn't reveal much, only that he worked for the state government in some capacity. That made Lisa even more suspicious. A government worker meeting secretly with a known drug dealer. This smelled like corruption. What Lisa didn't know, couldn't know, was that Alexander Reed was the state's top prosecutor. The meeting she'd witnessed wasn't a drug deal but the careful handoff of evidence from an informant who had infiltrated a major trafficking ring. Jimmy Parker wasn't selling drugs that night. He was risking his life to help bring down the real dealers. But Lisa was already typing up her article for tomorrow's paper. Her headline would raise serious questions about the mysterious visitor to Pinecrest, and Sheriff Lawson, trusting his daughter's judgment and eyewitness account, was preparing to open an investigation. Neither of them realized they were about to accuse the wrong man, a powerful man who had spent his life fighting the very crimes they thought he was committing. The Pinecrest Sheriff's Department wasn't much to look at, a small brick building with 4 patrol cars parked outside and a flag that had seen better days. When Alexander Reed walked through the front door, the hushed conversations at the front desk stopped immediately. Something about the way he carried himself commanded attention, like a storm cloud moving into calm skies. "I'm here to see Sheriff Lawson," he announced to the young deputy at the front desk. "Do you have an appointment?" the deputy asked, eyes darting nervously to the visitor's expensive suit. "No," Reed replied coolly. "But he'll want to see me. Tell him Alexander Reed is here." The deputy nearly dropped his coffee mug. "You're—" "Yes, I am. The man your department is currently spreading rumors about." The sheriff's office door opened before the deputy could call. Sheriff Lawson had heard the commotion and recognized the name. He stood in the doorway, a stocky man with graying hair at his temples and lines around his eyes from years of squinting into the sun. "Mr. Reed," Sheriff Lawson said, his voice carefully neutral. "I suppose we should talk." "We should indeed," Reed replied. "And I'd like your daughter to join us." The sheriff hesitated, then nodded. "Deputy, call Lisa. Tell her to come right away." Reed followed the sheriff into his office, a small room with worn furniture and walls covered in photos, certificates, and a large map of the county. Neither man sat. "Before we start," Sheriff Lawson said, "I want to be clear that I'm just doing my job." "And what job is that?" Reed asked. "Accusing state officials of crimes without evidence, or just backing up your daughter's irresponsible journalism." The sheriff's face reddened. "Now wait a minute." The door burst open and Lisa rushed in, cheeks flushed from hurrying. She stopped short when she saw Reed. "You," she said, recognition dawning. "You're the man from the parking lot." "Alexander Reed," he introduced himself, his voice sharp enough to cut glass. "State prosecutor. The man you've effectively accused of being a criminal." Lisa paled but stood her ground. "I reported what I saw." "You reported assumptions," Reed corrected. "And now my informant is missing, and a 3-year investigation might be ruined." "Informant?" the sheriff and Lisa asked in unison. Reed took a deep breath, visibly trying to control his temper. "Jimmy Parker has been working with my office for the past 6 months. He's been helping us gather evidence against a drug trafficking ring that's been using Pinecrest as a distribution point." The sheriff sank into his chair. "Jimmy Parker is your informant, but he's a known dealer." "Was," Reed corrected. "After his second arrest, we gave him a choice: help us catch the bigger fish or face serious time. He chose to help. And he was actually doing a good job until your daughter spotted us and jumped to conclusions." Lisa's face flushed. "How was I supposed to know? It looked suspicious." "That's the point of undercover work," Reed shut back. "It's not meant to be announced in the local paper." The three fell silent, the tension in the room thick enough to touch. Outside, they could hear phones ringing and the normal bustle of the small department, but it felt miles away. "Where is Jimmy now?" the sheriff finally asked. Reed's face darkened. "Gone. His apartment's cleaned out. Either he ran because he thinks his cover's blown, or—" He didn't finish the sentence, but he didn't need to. They all knew the alternative, that someone connected to the drug ring had read the article, figured out who the local person of interest was, and dealt with Jimmy accordingly. "I didn't." Lisa started, her voice smaller now. "I never meant to put anyone in danger." "Intentions don't matter much in my line of work," Reed said. "Results do, and the result of your article is a compromised investigation and a missing informant." Sheriff Lawson stood up, protective father instincts kicking in. "Now hold on. Lisa made a mistake, but she was trying to protect this town." "By rushing to print without verification," Reed challenged. "That's not protection, Sheriff. That's recklessness. And in my world, recklessness gets people killed." Lisa looked between her father and Reed, the weight of what she'd done starting to sink in. "What happens now?" she asked quietly. Reed checked his watch. "Now we'd have about 24 hours before my office has to make a public statement about this mess. And in that time, we need to find Jimmy Parker, if he's still alive to be found." By afternoon, the news had spread through Pinecrest like wildfire. Not the whole truth, just bits and pieces that grew with each telling. People whispered that Lisa Lawson had made a terrible mistake. Others defended her, saying she was just doing her job. The town felt divided, and the tension hung in the air like the coming storm clouds. Lisa sat at her desk in the Herald office, phone ringing nonstop. Her editor, Tom, had just finished giving her the worst lecture of her career. "You're on leave until further notice," he said, not unkindly but firmly. "We're running a retraction tomorrow. Front page." "Tom?" "Aye." "Lisa, you accused a state prosecutor of criminal activity. Do you understand what kind of trouble that brings? Not just to you, but to this whole paper." She nodded, throat tight. The retraction was already written. A public apology. The words made her stomach turn. As she packed up her things, her co-workers avoided eye contact. Only Beth from the classified section stopped by. "Everyone makes mistakes," Beth offered quietly. "Not everyone's mistakes might get someone killed," Lisa replied. Outside, the first drops of rain began to fall as Lisa walked to her car. Her phone buzzed with a message from her father, Meeting at my house, 7 p.m. Reed will be there. Great. Another chance to be reminded of her massive failure. Across town, Sheriff Lawson sat in his truck outside Jimmy Parker's apartment building. Alexander Reed was inside with 2 officers looking for any clue about where Jimmy might have gone or who might have taken him. The sheriff's mind kept replaying the morning's events. How quickly everything had unraveled. How his daughter's reputation was now in tatters. How a man's life might be at risk. His deputy, Carl Wilson, his friend for over 20 years, tapped on the window. Nothing obvious inside, Carl reported as the sheriff rolled down his window. Reed's guys are doing a more thorough search now. This is a mess, Carl. Lisa was just trying to do the right thing, Carl said loyally. I know, but good intentions paved this road, and look where we are. Reed emerged from the building, his expression giving away nothing as he approached the sheriff's truck. Anything? The sheriff asked. Hard to tell if he left in a hurry because he was scared or because someone made him leave, Reed answered. But we found this. He held up a small notebook with addresses and initials, not names, just initials. Could be his contact list, Reed said. We'll need to run these addresses. Back at the sheriff's house that evening, Lisa arrived to find her father and Reed sitting at the kitchen table, papers spread between them. Neither man looked up when she entered. Any news about Jimmy? She asked. Reed shook his head. Nothing concrete. But my office issued a statement clarifying that I was in Pinecrest on official business. Your paper's retraction runs tomorrow. Lisa nodded miserably. Front page. An uncomfortable silence filled the room. Lisa finally broke it. I'm sorry. I really am. I thought I was doing my job. Reed looked at her for a long moment. Your job is to report facts, not jump to conclusions. I know that now. The sheriff cleared his throat. We need to focus on finding Jimmy. Reed thinks he might have gone to one of these places. He pointed to the addresses they'd found. If he's alive, Reed added grimly. The people we're investigating don't play games. They've been linked to at least 3 deaths in the last year. Lisa felt sick, deaths that looked like accidents. Reed's eyes narrowed. How did you know that? It's my job to know what happens in this county, she said. There was that truck driver found in his cab, carbon monoxide, the construction worker who fell at the new mall site, and the drowning at Miller's Pond. Reed and the sheriff exchanged looks. Those weren't publicly connected, Reed said slowly. Lisa shrugged. No, but they all had small write-ups in the paper. All 3 men were new to the area. All 3 had cash that didn't match their jobs. I keep notes. For the first time, Reed looked at her with something other than anger, maybe a hint of professional respect. We should check these addresses, the sheriff said, bringing them back to the matter at hand. But we need to be careful. If Jimmy's in hiding, showing up with police might spook him. If the drug ring has him, then showing up without backup could be suicide, Reed finished. Lisa looked between them. What if I go? I'm not police. Jimmy knows me from around town. Absolutely not, her father said immediately. It's too dangerous, Reed agreed. More dangerous than sitting here doing nothing while a man might be dying because of my mistake. Lisa challenged. I need to fix this. The men exchanged another look, and Lisa could see her father's resolve weakening. We'll discuss it, the sheriff finally said. But I'm not putting you in danger to ease your conscience. Lisa nodded, but inside she was already making plans. This was her mess. One way or another, she would make it right. The morning brought rain and the newspaper's front-page retraction. Lisa didn't even want to look at it. Instead, she sat in her car outside the county records office, waiting for it to open. If she couldn't help search for Jimmy directly, she could at least dig deeper into what Reed was investigating. The elderly clerk barely looked up when Lisa entered, used to seeing the sheriff's daughter researching stories. Morning, Mrs. Hendricks. I need to look at property records for these addresses, Lisa said, sliding over the list she had secretly copied from her father's table. Sign here, Mrs. Hendricks replied, pushing a logbook toward her. You know where everything is. For 3 hours, Lisa pored over documents, making notes and connections. 4 of the addresses belonged to companies, not people. All 4 companies had been formed within the last 5 years. All had the same lawyer listed on their paperwork, David Chen from the capital city. Find what you're looking for. Mrs. Hendricks asked when Lisa finally stretched her stiff back. Maybe more than I was looking for, Lisa mumbled, photocopying the last document. As she walked toward the exit, a tall figure entered, stopping short when he saw her. Ms. Lawson, Alexander Reed said coolly. Funny running into you here. Lisa clutched her folder tightly. Mr. Reed. I was just doing some research. His eyes narrowed. On what exactly? Before she could answer, her phone rang, her father calling. She answered quickly. Dad, what's wrong? Where are you? Sheriff Lawson sounded worried. I went by your apartment. I'm at the county records office, she said, watching Reed's expression change from suspicion to curiosity. Actually, Mr. Reed is here too. Stay with him, her father said urgently. Someone broke into his hotel room this morning. Lisa's stomach dropped. Are you sure it wasn't just housekeeping? Housekeeping doesn't trash rooms looking for something, her father replied grimly. I'm sending Carl to pick you both up. She hung up and looked at Reed. Someone searched your hotel room. His face hardened. Tell me what you're researching. 10 minutes later, they sat in a corner of the records office, Lisa's documents spread between them. Reed's expression grew more intense as he examined each page. These companies, he said quietly. They're all connected to the case I'm building. Shell companies for laundering drug money. All four have the same lawyer, Lisa pointed out. Reed nodded. Chen, we've been watching him but haven't had enough to move on him yet. And 3 of them have made payments to something called PC Development Fund, Lisa continued, showing him her notes. Reed frowned. That's new information. What's PC Development Fund? I looked it up. It's registered as a community improvement initiative for Pennicrest. Started 2 years ago. Who runs it? Lisa hesitated. That's where it gets complicated. The paperwork lists the town council, but the authorized signer on the account is Deputy Mayor Richards. Reed sat back, connecting dots in his mind. Money from shell companies going to a town fund controlled by the deputy mayor. It gets worse, Lisa said, her voice dropping lower. These bank statements show regular payments from the fund to a company called Security Solutions Plus. And why is that significant? Because Security Solutions Plus doesn't exist as a registered company, but they have a bank account. And the address listed, she slid another paper toward him, is Carl Wilson's home address. Reed stared at her. Your father's deputy. Lisa nodded, feeling sick, Dad's best friend for 20 years. Before Reed could respond, the door to the records office opened. Deputy Carl Wilson stood there, eyes scanning the room until he found them. Sheriff sent me to get you too, he called cheerfully. Car's waiting. Lisa and Reed looked at each other, a silent understanding passing between them. Carl might be involved in the drug operation. Carl, who knew everything about the investigation so far. Carl, who was now supposed to drive them to safety. We'll be right there, Reed called back, his voice betraying nothing, just gathering these papers. As soon as Carl stepped outside to wait, Reed whispered, Don't react differently to him. Act normal. We need to tell your father, but carefully. If Carl is involved, he could be dangerous. Lisa nodded, her heart pounding as she gathered her research. What about Jimmy? If Carl is part of this, he might know where Jimmy is, Reed said grimly. But he also might have been the one to make Jimmy disappear. They walked outside to where Carl waited beside his patrol car, smiling at them like any normal day. Everything okay? Carl asked, noticing their serious expressions. Sheriff's pretty worried about that break-in. Just concerned about the case, Reed replied smoothly. As they got into the car, Lisa caught Reed checking his phone. No signal. Perfect isolation as Carl drove them away from town, toward the sheriff's house, or possibly somewhere else entirely. The patrol car moved slowly through the rain-slicked streets. Lisa sat in the back, her mind racing as she watched the familiar buildings of downtown Pennicrest give way to residential neighborhoods. Reed sat up front with Carl, making casual conversation about the weather and local sports. If Lisa hadn't seen the evidence herself, she would never have guessed anything was wrong from Reed's calm demeanor. Dad must be worried sick, Lisa said, testing the waters. Carl glanced at her in the rearview mirror. He's fine, just being cautious after that break-in. Lisa noticed they weren't heading toward her father's house, but instead toward the outskirts of town. This isn't the way to Dad's place. Sheriff called while you were inside, Carl explained smoothly. Asked me to bring you both to the station first. He's interviewing someone who might know about Jimmy. Reed and Lisa exchanged quick glances. The station was in the opposite direction. Funny, Reed said casually, I didn't see you on the phone. Carl's hands tightened slightly on the steering wheel. Radio call. Lisa's heart pounded as she tried to think of a way out. They were in trouble, she was sure of it now. The car turned onto Pine Ridge Road, heading toward the old lumber mill that had closed years ago. Carl, she said, forcing her voice to stay steady, remember when I was 10 and fell off my bike by Miller's Creek? You carried me all the way home. Carl smiled at the memory. Your dad was so worried. You were a tough kid, though, didn't even cry with that big gash on your knee. You've always been like family to us, Lisa continued. That's why I don't understand why your address is listed for a company getting payments from drug money. The car swerved slightly before Carl regained control. Reed's hand moved supplely toward his jacket. I don't know what you're talking about, Carl said, but his voice had lost its warmth. We saw the records, Carl, Reed said quietly. Security Solutions Plus. Money from shell companies flowing through the deputy mayor's fund to an account in your name. Carl was silent for several long seconds. Then he sighed deeply. You don't understand. None of you do. Then help us understand, Lisa pleaded. Where are you taking us? Where's Jimmy? Jimmy's fine, Carl replied. He's safe, safer than he would have been if he'd stayed. Your article actually did him a favor, made moving him easier to explain. The car slowed as they approached the old mill's entrance. Carl, whatever you're involved in, we can work it out, Lisa said. But kidnapping a state prosecutor is going to make things worse. Carl actually laughed, a hollow, sad sound. I'm not kidnapping anyone. I'm trying to save your lives, both of you. The car pulled to a stop in the empty parking lot of the abandoned mill. Through the rain-streaked windows, Lisa could make out another vehicle parked near the main building. There are things happening in Pennicrest that go way beyond what either of you understand, Carl said, turning to face them. Your dad doesn't know. I've kept him clean. But the deputy mayor, 2 council members, even Judge Parker, they're all in it, have been for years. In what exactly? Reed asked carefully. It started with just looking the other way when trucks came through town, Carl explained. Then it was helping launder money through town projects. The money was too good to turn down. And the people who died? Lisa asked. The so-called accidents. Carl's face darkened. That wasn't supposed to happen. Things got out of control when the new suppliers came in from the city. More money, but more violence too. So where does Jimmy fit in? Reed pressed. Jimmy was playing both sides, Carl said. Feeding you information, Mr. Reed, but also telling the suppliers what the police knew. When Lisa's article came out, the suppliers panicked. Thought Jimmy had told too much. And you moved him to protect him? Lisa asked skeptically. Carl nodded. He's at my hunting cabin. But he's not the only one in danger now. They know you two are digging. The break-in at the hotel was just a warning. Reed's eyes narrowed. Why should we believe you? Because I'm the one who trashed your room, Carl admitted. Made it look like they did it to scare you into leaving town. But you didn't scare. And now they've sent someone else. Someone who won't just frighten you. As if on cue, headlights appeared at the mill entrance. Another car was coming. That's them, Carl said grimly, reaching for his gun. And they're not here to talk. Carl's police radio crackled to life. Sheriff Lawson's voice came through, sounding worried. Carl, where are you? You should have been back by now. Carl grabbed the radio. Change of plans, Bob. We're at the old mill, and we've got company coming. There was a pause before the sheriff responded. The mill? What's going on? No time to explain, but we need backup. The quiet kind. Carl's message was clear, come without sirens. Reed leaned forward. Give me the radio. After Carl handed it over, Reed spoke quickly. Sheriff, this is Reed. Your deputy is involved with the drug operation, but right now he seems to be on our side. The deputy mayor and others in the town government are part of it too. That's not possible, the sheriff stammered. Dad, it's true, Lisa added. We've found the evidence, but right now we need help. There's a car coming, and Carl says they're not friendly. As if to confirm her words, the approaching car stopped about 50 yards away, its headlights cutting through the rain and fog. "I'm coming," Sheriff Lawson said firmly. "Stay put and stay safe." Carl handed Reed his backup gun from his ankle holster. "I never wanted it to go this far. It was just supposed to be easy money." "Money is never easy," Reed said, checking the weapon. Lisa peered through the Rain Street window. "They're getting out of the car." Two men approached slowly, both wearing dark jackets. One was tall and thin, the other shorter but muscular. They didn't seem concerned about being seen. "That's Jerry Tate, Deputy Mayor Richard's head of security," Carl identified the taller man. "The other one I don't know." "What do they want?" Lisa asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "To clean up loose ends," Carl replied grimly. "Including me, now that I've chosen sides." Reed assessed their situation quickly. "We can't stay in the car. It's a death trap if they start shooting." "The mill office," Carl suggested. "Solid walls, only 2 ways in. We can hold out there until the sheriff arrives." On Carl's signal, they slipped out of the car on the side away from the approaching men. Hunched low, they ran through the rain toward the old brick building that had once been the mill's main office. They had almost reached it when a shout went up behind them. "There they are!" A gunshot rang out, the bullet hitting the wall near Lisa's head, sending brick fragments flying. Carl pushed her inside the building as Reed turned and fired back, forcing their pursuers to take cover. Inside the dark mill office, they quickly barricaded the 2 doors with old desks and filing cabinets. Rain leaked through the damaged roof, creating pools on the concrete floor. "How long until my dad gets here?" Lisa asked, trying to keep her voice steady. 10 minutes at least," Carl replied, positioning himself by a window. "We need to hold out until then." Outside, the 2 men were approaching cautiously, using the abandoned equipment for cover. "Carl Wilson," Jerry Tate called out. "You know how this works. You can't just walk away after everything you've done." "It's over, Jerry," Carl shouted back. "Too many people know now." "Only the people in there with you," Jerry replied, "and that problem can be fixed." Reed moved to the window on the opposite side. "Your operation is finished. We have all the evidence we need about the money laundering through town projects." This seemed to give Jerry pause. Then he laughed. "Evidence doesn't matter when you control the judges and half the town council. Who's going to prosecute us? Who's going to believe you?" A new voice answered from the darkness. "I will." Sheriff Lawson stepped into view, his gun trained on Jerry. He wasn't alone. 4 state police officers flanked him, their weapons ready. "Drop your weapons," the sheriff ordered. "Now." For a tense moment, it looked like Jerry might resist. Then slowly, he placed his gun on the ground. The other man followed suit. As the state officers moved in to make the arrests, Sheriff Lawson headed for the mill office. When the barricades were cleared, he rushed in and pulled Lisa into a tight hug. "Are you okay?" he asked, examining her for injuries. "I'm fine, Dad," she assured him. "But how did you get here so fast with backup?" "I called Reed's office after the hotel break-in," the sheriff explained. "They already had state police on standby. They were only 5 minutes out when you called." Carl stood awkwardly to the side. When the sheriff turned to him, his expression hardened. "Bob, I can explain." "Save it," Sheriff Lawson cut him off. "We've been friends for 20 years, and you've been dirty how long?" 3 years, Carl admitted, his shoulders slumping. "I never meant for anyone to get hurt." "But people did get hurt," Reed pointed out. "And now you'll have to make it right, starting with testimony against everyone involved." Outside, more police cars arrived. The rain was finally stopping, and the first light of dawn was breaking through the clouds. "What happens now?" Lisa asked quietly. "Now," Reed said, "we finish what we started. We clean up this town." Sheriff Lawson nodded, still processing his deputy's betrayal, no matter who's involved. As they walked out of the mill, Lisa realized something had changed. The truth had been painful, the danger real. But for the first time since this whole mess began, she felt like they were finally on the right path.